I discovered something sort of profound this week. At least it really describes how autistic people think versus neurotypicals and why there's just such an issue for us. It just has to do with something I've been obsessed with level 1 versus level 2 thought processes. I was just thinking a little bit about how most people like to use System 1 being the sort of regions in the brain where computations are done quickly, things are done intuitively and emotionally. There's very little actual thought that's going on. People like to reside there because it's less energy intensive, where autistic people tend to be stuck on the System 2 side of things. You see, it's deliberate, slow, logical. This sounds kinda autistic when you just say it that way, and this is something I've always realized we're more logical, but I never really considered can we not do the System 1 as well as neurotypicals? And it turns out that some research suggests that's a thing. And this is what was profound for me because it shows a lot. It was one simple thing explains a lot of things. So I just want to kind of go into it a little bit. So first, I've been obsessed with this stupid riddle with the ball and the bat. I've known about this for years, but if you have a ball and a bat that cost $1.10 all together, and the bat is $1 more than the ball, how much does the ball cost? Most people answer this riddle wrong. See, are there any double entendres going on here? What do I have to dissect? You're giving me all the information I need and I just need to compute it. It's not hard. If you think, most people don't think. An answer pops in their head. 10 cents. Why? 10 cents. He's saying 10 cents too. It must be 10 cents. We're all saying 10 cents. It's 10 cents. That's a neurotypical thought process. We're all defaulting to the same answer. That's the answer. No, it's not. It's not. But it's quick. It's quick. You see, when I do this, I set up an algebraic equation. I'm just like, alright, we're looking for the price of the ball, x. The bat is 1 plus x. 1 plus x is equal to 1.1, which is the same thing as 2x equals 0.1, which means x is equal to 0.055 cents. That's a lot slower than 10 cents. And so, there's the first thing. I've been called stupid a lot in my life. And I always thought it was because my facial expressions and everything were just different than people, which is probably part of it, but the thing is I'm slower in a lot of ways and a lot of things because my System 1 thought process isn't as well developed. That's just what it seems like, and it's like, how can you figure things out better than most people and they still think you're stupid? This is why. At least one reason why. It's just, you look slower. But I recently watched an interview with Penrose, a Nobel laureate. He worked with black holes and he was a mathematician originally, but yeah, a famed physicist now. He was not great at school when he was younger. He needed twice as much time as the other kids. So, somebody who's slower isn't necessarily dumber. And that's something that I really can relate to. It's just like, okay. And really, if we look at logic and reason and actually thinking about things, I'm way faster than most people. It's just when you're in conversation stuff, it's advantageous to be using the System 1 thought process because it gives you better responses. People don't want to think about what you're talking about. That's one thing. Autistic people like to give more technical information and information dump, which is harder to follow because you have to be a little bit more active. It's easier just to vibe with one another, and that's just what they do, which to some degree I can do. It's just I think a lot of times I'm doing it through the lens of the System 2 and not the System 1. So can make me maybe a little awkward, but it's also very, very exhausting. I can only do it so long. And this makes another good point for why we're this way and they're that way. When we go out and socialize, we're not automating as much. We're actively thinking through what we need to do and what we need to say and this and that, and oftentimes it's not what we want to say and do. So, of course, that is going to be just draining in itself. And the reason that we have to abide by other people's rules is because they just occupy a different region in the brain, but it exhausts us. So there was two things there. It's harder to find the same perspective, and, well, it exhausts us because we're very, very active. Neurotypicals do whatever they can to avoid thinking. It's just the way we've been programmed. I'm just saying as it is what it is. But it is frustrating. That is another thing it is. Because when you're different than people, people are more likely to turn on you and treat you as an us versus them mentality. And they're more likely to do that when they're System 1 thinkers, because those sort of thought processes come in a subconscious way. And so I realized that, okay, I've always accepted people. Doesn't matter how cool you are versus me, because I've been popular in my life. I've had a lot of friends for being athletic and stuff, and, well, I didn't just exclusively talk to the popular kids. I didn't do stuff like that. Neurotypicals do. They do, a lot of times. They're more cliquey, that's for sure. And, well, I've actually gotten shit for hanging out with losers. It's like, well, I like playing video games with them. You're not going to do that with me. But, besides the point, it's just stacked up against us, being different, and being different in a way where you think about things and they don't, and they default to things. So, give some explanation on why it's harder for us to fit in. And finally, the frustrating part of it. When some of those things you get accused for, because I think a lot of autistic people do get accused for things, or get labeled certain ways, or get described in certain ways, you know, it's all a thing. It's all a thing for us. Well, it's frustrating because you look at it and you're like, this doesn't make sense. You just gave them different rules than you gave me, and I don't think you even realize it. I've had this thought a lot, and I just stay quiet. Makes me feel out of place because why are you treating me different than the other person? Better not address the elephant in the room. That's easier. And just let the thing kind of take its course. That's usually how I handle it, because when you don't handle it that way, what happens? When you try to explain yourself and give perspective and background, they don't need that. They've made their decision up based off some default mode in their brain that just feels right. They're like, 10 cents. That's what they're doing. They're saying 10 cents at you, and then the other guy over there is like, 10 cents. 10 cents. Frustrating. The frustrating part is it's not that neurotypicals can't think, it's just that they don't. They don't. So, you know, I guess this is kind of substituting one frustration for another, because it goes from being like, I'm not treated fairly, I don't know why. Now it's like, oh, I know why, and it shouldn't be that way. But to the very least, now I see people are just being people. People just can't think. Not that they can't, I guess that's the wrong word. They don't. That's what I meant to say. They don't think. They try not to. And when you try to bring reason to why it's not what they think it is, it gets them mad, because they're gonna have to think. So, it just puts a big wedge between us, in probably more ways than I've realized so far. Us and neurotypicals. But at the end of the day, you look at the stats, and it's becoming pretty clear that autistic people as employees have a lot of strengths. Like, the number of errors we make in a technical job opposed to neurotypical people is it's significantly reduced. And I gotta say, it has to do with the fact that we just think about what we have to do and don't make these hasty decisions that trick us into thinking we know what we're talking about when we don't. Because how many times has a neurotypical person told you that you just don't get this sort of thing? It's just like, fuck you. Fuck you. This makes no sense if you thought about it for 2 fucking seconds. But, kind of helps when you get this sort of thing happening to you and you just look at them like, so what they're telling me is 10 cents.